All right, welcome back to another episode of Transcend, the podcast. Today's guest, as you've already heard me introduce, is Bosko Kante, and I am still laughing because he just sat down and was like, all right, let's go. Tell me what you want to know. And I just thought the delivery was perfect and hilarious, so we're already in a good mood. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm fantastic. This year has the last year ended off great, and so much opportunity is right in front of me. It's here. It's not even in front of me. I'm holding it and I'm walking with it. So I'm
Awesome.
excited. Yeah.
So, okay, well, since we're starting with that, let's do this a little bit backwards. I was thinking about, introducing everything that you have done in the past to get you to this moment. But let's actually just talk about what is it that you were holding in your hands that you were so excited about in this moment?
This like right now is a culmination of all of the relationships that I've built over time with ElectroSpit, and I created a nonprofit called the Black Music Entrepreneurship Incubator, and we just won a grant for $707,000 to acquire the building and the recording studio that ElectroSpit was founded in, and where we currently operate out of. We also just got uh, about a $350,000 investment in ElectroSpit. So that's going to enable us to hire, to to do R&D on the next version of the product. So there's like basically two incredible projects have just got funded, and that's just the beginning, because the excitement that's connected with that funding and that led up to that funding. There's people that are ready to help and be part of what we're doing. So it's just exciting, and I'm
Awesome.
thankful for this this moment to like
Yeah.
move forward with resources.
For sure, right? With resources, right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on that. I mean, that's, about $1 million there in funding for two different projects. And that is no easy feat because, like you said, resources, especially in the Black and Brown community, they aren't really limited, but we just don't necessarily know where to find them or how to get them. So, talk to me a little bit about the Black Music Entrepreneurship Incubator. You said this is where you had founded ElectroSpit, but what is your vision for this incubator for Black music professionals? What are we doing with this?
The Black Music Entrepreneurship Incubator is where I got inspired. I've always been an advocate for other artists and a mentor. For the last 7 years, I've been mentoring other artists through this organization called Zoo Labs, which is a nonprofit that ElectroSpit went through. We went through their accelerator, and they provided incredible resources, from studio time to technical assistance on software design, hardware development, relationships to manufacturers, relationships to um, investors, and help with pitching, life coaching, just a continual like open door policy in terms of helping ElectroSpit. And in addition to the resources that Zoo Labs helped us find, we figured out how to ElectroSpit figured out how to crowdfund, how to use social media to sell our products, and how to do influencer marketing. We we figured out how to get more financing, loans, equity crowdfunded financing, impact funding, uh, friends and family financing from social impact organizations like Runway, education from Optima. So we put together like all of these resources to launch the company, to go from an idea to a company that is. We had the #1 song in the country last year. ElectroSpit was on the #1 song "Levitating" by Dua Lipa. It's been used by Stevie Wonder, and um, we just got funded for we have about $300,000 in new funding. So we figured all of that stuff out, but it took us like 7 years. And I got inspired during the George Floyd protests, especially to figure out what is like a structural or a meaningful way that I can share or how I can give back to the Black community in particular. And the way that I determined was best was by sharing the blueprint for success for ElectroSpit and with other artists, which I believe has to do with looking at your artist as a business, not limiting your creativity to just music, using your creativity on your marketing, on your business model, on your hiring, on everything. And the Black Music Entrepreneurship Incubator is the vehicle to deliver all of the resources, all of the information, all of the network that we have found with ElectroSpit to other artists.
I love it.
So
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's
that's a
not,
little
I
bit
mean,
about
you mentioned
it.
you mentioned so many resources, right? Things that you joined Zoo Labs, and then Zoo Labs was able to bring all of these pieces together to help you be successful from other relationships that they had within the community, which is so important, right? Because I think that oftentimes there's a narrative, especially in our communities, about, first of all, who do you trust? Right. But then there's also this narrative like just work hard and figure it out. You don't need anybody else. What if someone steals your idea? All of these kinds of fear-based thinkings that will often keep us in the same place. But there is so much value in joining a community that can truly bring resources, to the meeting where you're going to be once or twice a week. So that is awesome. But tell everybody what ElectroSpit is. I'm sure they're like, what is it? What is he talking about? He's an artist. There's a hardware thing he's talking about. There's a #1 song. Like, what is ElectroSpit? I think it's awesome, but I want you to tell everybody else.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So rewind. So I'll go way back. I was born
Way
in
back.
Ghana.
Okay.
I'll start from the beginning. I was
I
born
thought you were gonna say
in
Portland,
West
Oregon,
Africa.
because that's what we have in common. But I'm look at me learning something new.
Yeah, yeah. So I was born in Ghana in West Africa. I came over as a baby to Portland, Oregon. My mom was from Portland. My dad was from Ghana. And my I came from a musical family. My mom played French horn. My grandmother played trumpet. My great grandfather played trumpet. My aunts, like at Christmas, we were all playing instruments. So I was surrounded by music my whole life. I was also surrounded by math teachers my whole life. So my mom was a math teacher. My grandmother was, and my mom is also, she's currently a civil engineer, and she was a math professor at Portland State. My grandmother was a math professor at Portland State and an electrical engineer. She was part of the team that developed a microwave. My one of my cousins was was one of the part of the team that developed the laser. So he invented one of the types of lasers. So I have all of these scientists. He was also a clarinetist. So there's all of this music and math and engineering that's part of my family background. And we would, at Christmas, we would play music and then we would play math games. So it was all kind of preparing me. So I got a scholarship. I started breakdancing, and when breakdancing got big, and I won a set of turntables in a breakdancing contest. So then I started DJing, started using the
Wow.
money from DJing. This is middle school now. In middle school, I was making
Right.
money as a DJ doing parties. I took the money and bought like the drum machine, 4-track tape deck, a computer. So I was like way ahead in terms of using computers with music because I couldn't afford like a high, like 24-track reel to reel studio time or studio equipment. So I replaced that with cheaper computer equipment. and that kind of I was making songs with my friends in the basement. Um, 4.0 student in high school, class valedictorian, got a full ride scholarship to USC. Also played sports. I walked on the team at USC.
The
Um,
hoop team, the basketball team,
while
right?
I was basketball team, sorry, yes, I walked on the basketball team, not the football team. Maybe I could have done that, but I didn't want to. I was a basketball fan. I love basketball.
Hmm.
So uh, played with Harold Miner. Went to the NCAA tournament. So that was super fun. But I went. The reason that I decided to go to USC, because I also got into Stanford, is I wanted to be in the music business, and I knew the music business was in Los Angeles. When I got there, I started meeting people. Um, uh, Actually, one of the people on my basketball team, Tremaine Ankrum, he introduced me to this girl named Leah Reese, who was she had a keyboard, and she produced, and we started doing music together. Her boyfriend was this guy named Modo. Modo was AMG's best friend. AMG was
Uh-huh.
DJ Quick's best friend. So
Okay.
he started taking so Mo started taking us over to hang out with AMG, and AMG took us to hang out with Quick from time to time. I started meeting other musicians in LA. Met this guy named well, there's a couple of different parts. So one, my buddy Tremaine um, hooked me up with this guy named Big John, who was a DJ in Denver. John started coming out to Los Angeles, and because he loved the music that I was doing, and he shopped a publishing deal. We got a publishing deal with EMI, so now I'm like officially in the music business. One of the other guys that I met, Trey Ski, was the DJ for In Living Color, and they needed a new theme song for In Living Color. And I was playing instruments, like live instruments, and all of his stuff was sampled. So he said, "Well, let's collaborate because we need to do something original for this theme song." We collaborated, landed the theme song for In Living Color. This was like
That's
I was a
crazy.
junior.
That is
It was
absolutely
nuts.
crazy.
It was
That's
nuts.
like this Black culture icon in Living Color. Like, and you created the scene or collaborated on the theme song for In Living Color.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
greatness. This is
yeah,
just greatness.
yeah.
This is black magic all right here.
Right on, right on. Thank you. So if you hear this laugh at the beginning, and it's that's me laughing, that was like the secret sauce. Like I figured, now what would make them want to pick ours over, the other submissions? And I said, well, it's a comedy show, so I'll just throw this laugh in here. And so if you hear like the Living Edition, Living Color box set or whatever, that laugh at the beginning, that's me laughing, just being silly. And it was like, and it was it was crazy. It was a turning point for me because I got a big check, and I was in the middle of my engineering studies at USC, but I said, you know what? I'm everybody says I'm so smart, I'm valedictorian and all this. I got an academic scholarship. I should be able to figure out how to make a living doing what I love. And I love math and science, but music was just so fun, is just so fun. And so that was a turning point. I said, well, I can do this. I just landed this gig. I'm gonna go for it. I graduated, used the money to buy a house. I didn't just buy the house in cash. It wasn't that much money, but but it was a down payment. It was a
Uh-huh.
down payment, and I bought a house in Los Feliz, which is just north of Los Angeles. We're kind of within Los Angeles, basically. And I set up a music studio there, and I started producing for other artists. I had this rap group called Three Ways that there was this huge bidding war for, and one of the companies that we met with Russell Simmons, Leora Cohen, um, all of the big record companies, and Jive Records wanted to sign us, and how they wanted to try to convince us to sign was they said, well, if you work with us, you can work with all these cool artists on our label. Cool artists being E40, Too Short, Spice One. So
I mean, how do
I
you say
did.
no?
I didn't. I
Right.
did say no to. I didn't sign with them. So the group
Uh-huh.
broke up, which is probably another story for another time. But I still did a song with E40, the Sprinkle Me remix. So when Sprinkle Me came out, which is his first big single with Jive, the B-side was my remix, and they flew me out to the Bay Area to meet 40, and that was like my introduction to Bay Area rap. I mean, I was already listening to it, but that was my first time meeting 40, and from then on I started doing production for E40, the Loonies, Three Times Crazy, Drew Down, um you know Too Short, just all of these Bay Area artists. I was also working with artists in Los Angeles, Corrupt and the Dog Pound, WC, Snoop. Um, so my production career was really moving forward, and I got a record deal myself with Atlantic Records. I started playing the talkbox. When I got my record deal with Atlantic, one of the first things I bought was a talkbox. So the talkbox is this instrument that you use a tube, it goes in your mouth, and you make sounds, and you do the California Love and songs like More Bounce to the Ounce, and but so that'll be important. So pay attention to that for later.
We'll bookmark it.
Bookmark that. So
Right.
I started adding talkbox to my productions that I was doing with E40. Then then a friend of mine named Mike Karen called me to do talkbox for this record for T.I. He had just signed T.I. to Atlantic, and the song was called "Let Me Tell You Something." This producer named Kanye West, who nobody had heard of, had produced the record, and or at least not everybody had heard of. And he loved the talk box part that I put on there. So he said, "Hey, come out to New York, jump on my album. I'm working on my new album." So I happened to be in New York not too long after, because I was working on E40's My Ghetto Report Card album, which was again another incredible story, but I won't go too deep into that. But and so I played Talkbox. John Legend, Kanye, and I sat in the studio and wrote Kanye's workout plan, and it ended up, on the album. And I was like, man, this Kanye, I didn't really know what to expect. But when the album came out, I was listening to the records on College Dropout, and I was like excited to hear all the features. Like he's got Jay-Z, he's got uh, Most Def on there. He's and but every song that had a big feature, Kanye's verse was either just as good or even, different, but he was neck and neck with some of my favorite rappers, and the rest of the album was incredible. And I'm like, this guy's going somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and yeah, and if it wasn't obvious, to everyone else, it was obvious to me at that moment. And Kanye's workout plan ended up being the third single. Um, and other people started really calling me to play talkbox. So I played with, right before that, I had played with Tupac and the Outlaws. I played talkbox for Limp Bizkit, for Tyrese. Um, then after the Kanye, I did stuff with Big Boy. I did this record Shutterbug and played Talkbox on Shutterbug. That ended up getting a Grammy nomination and being probably still to this day Big Boy's biggest record.
And
Um,
like at this point, you're what, like 25, 26? 27?
Yeah, probably late.
Yeah, I mean you're still like super young. So let
Yeah.
me go back for a second because you said so first of all, when you started DJing in middle school after you won those turntables, people were hiring you. So you kind of had an idea that you could make a little bit of money off of your talent by, I'm gonna totally butcher this because I don't know the music lingo, but I guess just mixing records, right? And like DJing at the parties. And then you had another sort of epiphany in college when you received that check for this work that you had done. But when you realized that you could get paid, what shifted for you in your thinking from this is something I love to do and it's fun to this is something I love to do and I'm going to turn myself into a business?
You know, the turning myself into a business is actually much more recent. As a producer, I was a professional. Like, I was thinking of myself more like uh, an attorney or in other types of independent contractors. So I was now. In actuality, it was a business. It was my own business, and I did, incorporate. I created a Bombay Entertainment way back then, but I didn't have and I took some entrepreneurship classes at USC, but I don't think I had enough of the business thinking. Uh, my sales and marketing was something that I kind of found distasteful, and all of the administration and legal stuff was like a headache, and my thinking around business wasn't quite right. I just wanted to, I won't say that I just wanted to make music because I was very at that time I was already doing cash flow projections with Excel. Like I was doing those in college, and I was getting pretty good at understanding the contracts, uh, even in college. And I think that those are things that gave me a real advantage compared to some of my peers who were hiring people for everything. And I think it's super important to have a team, but it's also important to understand what's going on because otherwise you can overpay, hire the wrong people, um, make bad decisions. And I was curious about all of those. Like I think growing up in Portland, there's this real do-it-yourself attitude. Uh, it's different now, but at that time, what's different is at that time, if I needed to learn something, I knew I could go to the library and figure it out.
Right. Right. The good old library used to be my favorite place.
Yes, the good old library. And there are all of these bad jokes about, if you want to hide something from Black people, put it in a book, you
Oh,
know.
terrible. Right.
And that wasn't me. I was like, shoot, put it in a book. I will find it.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I
me
will find
too.
it and use it. So yes, it's not gonna work on me. And that was just the culture I think that I grew up in Portland. Like whatever it is, I need to register my song for a copyright. So I go to the library, find a book on how to register your music for copyrights. Read the book, follow the instructions, you know, get the handbook from the copyright office and send it off. So I was just every obstacle that I encountered, I would research and overcome, and I didn't think of it as outstanding or different. It's just how I wanted to do stuff, and nobody else knew how to do it, so I just went and that's just how you do it. You just go to the library and figure it out. And that I think that's really served me, going forward because now, of course, you don't have to go to the library. You can find it on
Right.
the internet, YouTube University, but
Right.
it's still the same attitude.
Yeah.
You
There
encounter some challenge and you say, "Okay, well, I don't know how to do this, so let me look it up."
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I find that even with my students, because I run a paralegal program also, and I'll say something, and they're like, "Well, how do you do that?" And I'm like, like if you were training to be in this legal field, you have to have some curiosity and some research skills. But we're just kind of in that day and age of just tell me what to do and how to do it. But I do think that the folks in general, and certainly the entrepreneurs that are willing to investigate a little bit, and not that you need to become the expert, but you do need to know enough to know what you don't know and to know when it's time to get help. Like, don't be foolish enough to do everything by yourself, but also don't be foolish enough to not arm yourself with the knowledge that you need to be successful in your
Right.
field and in your craft.
Right.
So,
I think
okay,
it's
so now you're like, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it's a combination of, ask for as much help as you can get, and in parallel, research as much as you can. So you're asking the right questions when you actually get in front of the person that you're asking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Absolutely.
so I definitely, um, I knew I knew I needed to make a living off the music, and I did think about it as a business in that regard. And I started to think about what are sales and marketing. Uh, I'm looking back and saying, man, I could have done so much different. But
Well, hindsight is always 2020 because you have new knowledge now that you didn't have
yeah,
back then. I would say you did pretty well.
I
I think you
did.
did pretty well.
I'm very happy. I exceeded all of my expectations for sure.
Hmm.
If
So
anything, go ahead.
I want to ask you about like your evolution then as an artist, because you said as a kid you were playing all of these different instruments, and even in college you were playing different instruments. And
Hmm.
at some point you picked up this talk box, which is not an instrument like in the traditional sense, right? But it's a tool that you can use. So at
Right.
what point did you realize that your skills, like your musical talent, had to also evolve to keep up with what was going on and to be relevant in the market?
I think, okay, so there was this huge, like my career was going along, buzzing in 2005, but then around that time the music industry started to have trouble with piracy, and streaming hadn't even evolved yet, and iTunes and there had started, I believe, and there just the money in the music business wasn't what it was. There wasn't as much money. Companies were closing and consolidating. I wasn't getting the same kind of fees. I had a lot of I was working as an independent producer, uh, doing songs for artists, and the expectation was that after I did the song that they were gonna pay me for the song and the song was gonna come out. But partially because of the environment in the industry, but I was doing songs for people, but their record labels were shutting down or they weren't paying the advances. Their albums weren't coming out, so the amount of work that I was doing was increasing, but the amount of money I was making was going down. I was also I was also involved in so my reaction, part of my reaction to, and also um part of my reaction to that was to start doing my own music. So I started working on my own album, really working on my singing. Um, and but then around the same time or a little bit later, I had started investing in real estate. I had a house and a studio in Atlanta, and I was building a property in Los Angeles, and I had uh, a condo conversion project I was doing in Oakland, and then the financial crisis hit, and all of that real estate, went from being a great asset to being a huge drag. And I, I there's I got into a fight with the bank for the property I was building. They got seized by the FDIC, so then I had to I had to sue the bank because they stopped my construction loan, and I settled, but the settlement, I didn't get to do that project, and the condo conversion project, we had issues with that, and there was just all these real estate problems and all of the problems with the music business kind of coming together around the same time. Uh, J. Cole actually sampled one of my songs. He sampled the Kanye's workout plan, and he sampled my talkbox. And during this time when I wasn't doing as much producing, I was still getting calls for talkbox on different records. But the J. Cole record ended up being a huge hit. So J. Cole's workout. I mean, J. Cole workout, and I'll play it for you in a second. Um, so that really I got some nice publishing checks out of that. It was a nice lift for me at the time. I was still working with E40. I had always been interested in tech, and because didn't have the real estate, I didn't have a studio that I didn't have a place like this to record. So I started asking my friends, where can I record in Oakland, and and my buddy Cool Nuts, who's from Portland, uh, he said, "Man, call Chief XL. He's got a studio." Chief XL had a studio inside of Zoo Labs, and he said, "Man, you're a production legend, man. You can come use my studio anytime
Mm-hmm.
for free."
Okay.
I
That's a
said,
good deal.
I said, "Thank you, my brother."
Right.
Right, it was right on time. I was going through basically, a rough patch with all of the
Mm-hmm.
financial crisis and having to sell properties and all that. And the first day I got here, um, they were having it was the end of a residency, and I met one of the founders of the accelerator, Vanitha Watson, and she asked, she said, "You're from the music business. Can you mentor these artists as they're coming through?" I was like, "Yeah, heck yeah." And so
Mm-hmm.
then we had a meeting to talk about, my career and how I might be able to mentor the artists that were going through their accelerator. And she said, "Well, you should apply for the accelerator because, you can mentor too, but I think, we have some resources." And I'm looking around this studio. I was like, "Yeah, I should apply for this."
Because at this point, you already had the idea for ElectroSpit, or not yet?
I had the idea for the talk box.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned before, the talk box, you use the tube, goes in your mouth. It's you have to plug it in. It's
Mm-hmm.
that goes out of here, and then you have to have a
Right.
separate keyboard and all of these pieces. And when I did Kanye's workout plan, we performed it on the American Music Awards. I wanted to play live and freestyle and say Kanye, Bosko, and all. I couldn't do that because I had to lip sync because the whole performance was dancing and motion, and it made me think, how can I make this portable? So I wanted to make a portable talk box. It was going to be merch for my music production and my recording as an artist. I applied to the accelerator to Zoo Labs, and I partnered with Maya Kante. She is my wife, and marketing marketing savant and Berkeley grad and spiritual life coach, and Pete Miser, who's this really dope producer from Portland as well, he lives in New York now. He's a visual artist, and he's done music for film and TV, including like Super Bowl commercials. And this guy named Lance Coleman, who's a really dope artist and MC from Atlanta, but he's also a digital strategist. He does a digital strategy for Lil Wayne, Nicki Minaj. And so I put a team together, which was one of the requirements for Zoo Labs. And I had always been a solo kind of act, and so that was important to get that team together. And once we came together and went through the accelerator, we realized that there was this workshop called the Futures Thinking Workshop from the Institute from the Future, or of the Future, and or of Futures Thinking, IFTF. And we started thinking about what are the trends in the music business. And the music business has in music production, it's gone from these big studios to these computers, desktop computers, to laptop computers. And then we saw in the future that it was going to be all on the phone, or a lot of it will be done on the phone. And it's a lot easier to compete with the future than the present, because in the present you're competing against all of these incumbents, these other companies that have tons of resources, but
Hmm.
they're worried about today, but in the future nobody's there.
Right, 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 right. That's a good little nugget of advice for entrepreneurs out there. Don't compete with today, compete with the future.
Compete, because it's going to take you time to build your business and your product anyway, so you
Hmm.
might as well build for something in the future rather than build for today and then 5 years from now it's old. so
Right.
so what we did was we took the talkbox, and instead of using the talkbox technology, we used this is one of our first prototypes
Uh-huh.
we came up with right after the residency. It's like Ace Hardware, PVC pipe screwed together, glue, and this is rubber from the inner tube cut out, and
Uh-huh.
pieces of automotive like clips that I use, like all of these, like everything is pretty much from Ace Hardware, but it makes the same similar sound to the talk box. Doesn't sound nearly as good, but um, you don't have the tube in your mouth that makes you talk like this. It's, it's more portable, and that was our first, prototype. And then we instantly saw that, or got excited. Like, instead of we were going to be a rap group and have this merch, which was this portable talk box, but instead we said we're going to flip it and we're going to be a hardware company and use the music to promote the sale of the instrument. And if you look across artists, like right now in business, most even large artists, they're making the majority of their money from things besides music. The music becomes like advertising, or I won't call it a lost leader, but it's just, if Jay-Z is a billionaire and probably only 10% or 20% of his money comes from music. It's all comes from his music and his notoriety and his celebrity, but the actual dollars come from sales of champagne, sales of clothes, sales of art, sales of you know technology businesses.
Right.
And
Right. It's like the music has become the brand awareness tool, and
yes,
then creates that sort of relationship and that trust, that know, like, and trust factor. And then once you have that, you can point people to whatever other direction that you want that is a little bit more lucrative for you as a business owner.
yes, absolutely. Yes. So we wanted to do that with our business, because we knew I mean, I had been producing records and I had been making songs, and I mean, I loved it, but I was ready for more control, for more revenue, for more financing. It's really hard. You make a great song, and then but to blow it up, you need money. Where's the money gonna come from? Well, usually from a record company, and they wanna own everything. So the upside is gonna be limited. Whereas, if you are selling a hardware, a piece of technology, it probably takes a similar amount of money to get it to really get it started. And but you can get loans. You can get inventory financing on expected sales. You can get grants. There's like a whole ecosystem around creating businesses that doesn't creating hardware businesses and creating, non-music businesses that doesn't really exist for music, or at least that's one of the things that we're building and that we're,
Mm-hmm.
and we're putting together, but it's not as common.
Got it. So the talkbot or the ElectroSpit allows
Yeah.
you to change your vocals, right, and add
Yes.
different instruments sort of at your fingertips, so it becomes
So
um,
yes.
this smaller computer production tool.
So the original talk box, not portable, hard to talk with.
Uh huh.
The ElectroSpit talk box, which this is
Mm-hmm.
our current version, the ESX1. It goes around your neck like so. You can change your colors. And you use an app.
Uh huh.
We created an app that has the synthesizer. And so instead of having a big synth you have to carry around, you just have it all right in your palm. And then you connect the output from the phone to the ESX1 talk box, and then California love, ooh, California knows how to party. California knows how to party. ElectroSpit, baby.
I love it. Like if you are not watching this right now, if you're just listening to the audio, my smile is so big because that just brings up like all of the memories and all the feels from like middle and high school. And that is so
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you. Thank you. So
That is awesome.
that's what you can do with it. And it's right in the palm of your hands. It's portable. It's easier to pronounce your words. You don't have to know how to play a keyboard to play it. So there are a lot of advantages, and there's a wow factor to when you see the talk box and hear the talk box, because it's like it sounds human, but it's a little bit like not quite human. So you're like,
Not right.
what is that sound? And that excitement, of hearing the talk box and then seeing the new form factor. When we started sharing it on Instagram, uh, celebrities were hitting us. Teddy Riley saw it and reached out and said, "Hey, what's that?" And I had no previous relationship with Teddy Riley, but I hit him. I hit him back and said, "Hey, would you like to try it?" He's like, "Yeah, I want to try it." So I flew out to Vegas. He's living in Vegas now. Showed Teddy Riley. I got all of this great video of him playing his hit songs, his reaction. Then when I did the same with David Guetta. David Guetta, um, I was lucky. I was fortunate that I was working with him on a record he wanted Talkbox, and then I showed him the ElectroSpit, and he just
Hmm.
lost his mind. He's like, what is this? This is incredible. And I captured it on video.
Right.
And so I'm basically going through around LA and around the country capturing people's reaction to the product on video. That led that all of that footage was compiled into a Kickstarter video. And uh, when we launched our Kickstarter and people saw these celebrities going crazy for this product, we we instantly shot up. We started getting reposted. Just Blaze reposted it. Pete Rock reposted it, and we got like 40,000 views on, and 100,000 views on a couple of different Kickstarter promo videos on Instagram. We only had 700 followers at the time, and this is 2018. And our Kickstarter was funded in 48 hours, um, and and then went on to go like 300% of our original goal.
That's amazing.
So now
Tell
go ahead.
Tell me about Stevie Wonder though, because I've heard this before, but I love Stevie,
Stevie,
so I just what was
love
Stevie's reaction? He got
Stevie.
his product into the hands of Stevie Wonder, y'all. Just like let that sink in, as if all of the other connections weren't enough to be amazing. But Stevie,
Yes, Stevie. So, okay, so after we did the Kickstarter, I flew to China to figure out the manufacturing for the product. When I got there, some of the quotes that I had got, that were 40,000 or 20,000, they said, well, no, it's going to be more like 80,000 and you need more development. So I kind of came home from China with a little disappointed, but with a lot more information. I understood how manufacturing worked a lot better after having talked to the different people in China. And, but we didn't have enough money. We we had to redesign the product, make it adjustable for different necks. We had to make it so you could break it apart and mold it for the manufacturing. Um, we knew we had to raise more money. We didn't have it, and I'm creative, so what I did was I talked to the injection molding company, which is this company called Fictive, and they were also a startup. So they were pretty flexible on how they were doing business. And I said, "Can I get some samples? I don't have the 60,000 I need for the injection molds, but I can give you a deposit." And then samples were already part of the process. So they said, "Well, yeah, we can give you like 5 samples." And so I said, can I get more samples? He said, well, how about we could give you 25? I said, can you give me 50? Like, we've never done it before, but hey, why not? You know,
right, right.
it doesn't cost them anything. It just, 10-cent piece of plastic.
Mm-hmm.
Got 50 samples, launched an equity crowdfunding campaign. And in exchange for $1,000 investment in ElectroSpit, you got one of these essentially prototypes. But no, there
Mm-hmm.
was only one ElectroSpit at the time, so these
Mm-hmm.
prototypes were in high demand.
Right.
So $50,000 later, we had the
Nice.
money to start manufacturing. So this was the beginning
Awesome.
of 2019, and but so in that process, uh, one of the things that I did um, was I was posting on Instagram, trying to figure out how to get the crowdfunding going, sell people this device. So I was demonstrating it, and I thought, what would be one of the coolest things to do with it? Well, what if I could play with Stevie Wonder? So I didn't know Stevie Wonder, so I said, well, I'm gonna take one of his old videos. So I got one of his old videos from the 70s of him playing talkbox, and I put it side by side with me playing with him, and I posted it, and I said, man, wouldn't this be amazing? And it was just kind of a fluke. There really wasn't like this deep strategy behind it. It was just me dreaming. And I did it late at night, and my wife was asleep, so I couldn't make any noise. So I had the headphones on and the volume like super low. And the next day, this was a Friday,
Mm-hmm.
I got a DM from this guy Mike Phillips, and he
Mm-hmm.
said he's like, this is crazy. I want to try it. I only had one, mind you, at this time. So I said,
Right.
well,
Right.
are you going to be in Oakland anytime soon? He's like, no, I'm not for a couple of weeks. I said, well, cool. We'll hook up then. And he said, I'm actually also performing on Monday in San Francisco. And I said, oh yeah. He said, yeah, I'm a part of Stevie Wonder's band for this performance. It's like, oh,
Uh-huh.
and he's like, would you like to show it to Stevie? Like, hell yeah.
Right. Like that's why I made the video.
That's right.
Right. What kind of question is that? That's a rhetorical question.
Yeah. And so he gets in touch with Stevie. So I posted a video on Friday. On Monday, I was at the Four Seasons with Stevie Wonder at the hotel, showing him the ElectroSpit talkbox. He's playing. He takes it. He's playing all of his hits. He played some. I played him some of my songs. He played my songs on there. Uh, it was just a dream because Stevie is my favorite artist of all time. And if you, I have a picture on our Instagram, and you just see me smiling like ear to ear. I'm just like so happy to, man. And when I posted that picture, we did 10,000 in investment that day from that one picture. I posted that picture, no advertisements or anything. Just posted that picture on our Instagram with we had at that time, I think we had like 1,400 followers or something. We don't have this huge audience. Boom, 10,000 in investments, just like that. He his one of the guys from his team, Lamar, introduced us to Corey Henry, who's another incredible keyboardist, and said, "Man, you need to talk to Corey Henry. He needs to see this ElectroSpit." So we went out to New York and hung out with Corey Henry, showed it to him. He's got 500,000 Instagram followers. He
Mm-hmm.
posted a video of using it, another 10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. So it's like that influencer marketing
Yeah.
connection like funded us and allowed us to start manufacturing the product.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's quite a few things that I want to highlight, but your story is just absolutely fascinating. But one of them, like you just said, the power of the network, right? So you had all of these years of creating these relationships and building goodwill amongst folks, pre electrospit, pre, putting yourself into the market in a different way than you had before, that have all come to serve you, because people aren't going to recommend you or their product if they don't like you or feel good about you, or if your reputation, hadn't supported that beforehand. So for all of us listening, don't underestimate the power of relationships and building them before you need something. Two, I love the pivot from, here I am in the studio. I want my own rap group. We're going to do it a couple different times. I'm going to make my own music, to let me see how I can still do my craft and be in the business, but not necessarily the one who's making the songs, right? So now you've pivoted to become not necessarily indispensable, but this new hot wave of technology that artists that you've worked with in the past now want to go back and see what you've got going on now. So you saw that the game of like being the artist making the song, it's hard to make money, all these streaming apps and things like that, they've diluted, the income that was there previously. But instead of saying forget it, you found a way to pivot and to provide something valuable to the market. So, big lesson on that as well. And then also the creativity about funding, and negotiating, thinking about, well, there's only one prototype right now. So let me go back and see if I can get some more samples. Okay, 5. Well, how about 10? Well, what about 25? Okay, what, like 50, right? I think sometimes we are so, when we're a lot of times when we're starting out, we're not always confident in what it is that we're doing. And so we hesitate to ask for more. But those what's the worst they could have told you? No, I can only do 5. Okay, you would have done something with the 5, right? But you got 50 prototypes that you were able to then use, not just to hand out for free, but because you needed an infusion of capital, you said, let me use what I've got to see how I can raise this money. And I think just kudos for you on that creativity as well, because oftentimes we get stuck, or we think that we're stuck and we shut
Yes.
down.
Yeah,
But there's always a way, right? Just
absolutely.
keep digging a little bit more.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's in negotiation, I always look for other ways, like if the money is like an obstacle, then what are the other assets? What are the other things that we can trade? What are what's the other value that I can bring or that I can deliver?
mm-hmm,
And this the company that was doing the manufacturing, they didn't care about those samples.
mm-hmm,
You
right.
know, they were just a throwaway, to them. It
Mm-hmm.
was a way to get so I could say, "Oh, this isn't right," and I can make this change, and then but it cost them almost exactly the same amount to make 50 as it did to make 5. You know,
Right.
instead of $20, it cost them $30 or something.
Right.
and
Right.
and
Something
for
negligible.
and for me, it was the difference between, it was $50,000,
Right.
and then with our the customers, like if I say it's $1,000 for this instrument, that is, um, I mean, it's a sale that could be made, but instead I said, hey, you invest $1,000 in ElectroSpit, which is
Hmm.
something that can grow, and you get this product for free, essentially.
Right. Right. It's like the bonus gift because they're thinking about getting money back on their investment in the form of cash later on. But as an incentive is, oh, and you get to play with this awesome tool.
Yes. And
Yeah.
for them, a lot of them, maybe they weren't really like tech investors, or that wasn't their main motivation. They really just wanted the gear, but it's an easier sell. It's not like, oh, I'm just paying a super high price for this piece of gear. No, I'm investing in this company, and I'm part of the people who are gonna be influencing the future of this instrument. I'm supporting, somebody who I see myself in their shoes someday, of creating my own business. So there are a lot of other reasons why the psychology of investing $1,000 for this instrument was much easier for people than just buying it outright. Uh, you know, and it made it so we could raise the money that we needed to do the manufacturing. But yeah, just being creative, and that's one of the things I was talking about earlier. As artists, we think sometimes that the creativity stops when you walk out of the studio, but it doesn't. You have to be creative in your marketing, creative in the way that you manage your relationships. And the best, the best artists, that's one of the reasons they're successful, is because they are creative. They get stuck, and they say, well, then there's another way we can do this different.
Right. Right. And yeah, and just taking the time sometimes to figure it out. It might not just pop up, instantly, but giving that space to make it happen. Another thing too is, before this, you hadn't done anything in manufacturing, right? So I'm assuming you had to figure out that process and, you know, um, maybe go slow, maybe speed up, and then, make some adjustments as needed. But even though it was a new realm, you didn't let that stop you. You pushed through to figure out what you needed to figure out to get the thing done.
It's that same spirit from Portland of, that when I was a kid, I didn't know how to, fix my bike. And I would, go over to my friend's house who maybe knew how to fix bikes, and maybe go to the bike shop and ask a couple questions. Or, it's like you can figure it out. You just have to be patient with yourself. And the same thing with the manufacturing. I had no idea. Now, I did have a mechanical engineering degree, but especially at a school like USC, what that means is I studied, lots of textbooks, and
Right.
I did lots of physics and calculus and
Yeah,
all of
you
this.
understand the theory behind it, not
Lots of
necessarily the practice.
I hadn't built anything, you know. And I think that maybe the programs that in colleges, especially in USC, are different now, where there's probably a lot more hands-on, just because
Hmm.
the manufacturing technology is different now. But at that
Hmm.
time, it was all theoretical. I mean,
Right.
it was just like I was probably studying how to make a rocket, but in practice, I was just making like a toothpick, car.
Uh-huh. Right.
So,
Absolutely.
uh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, I mean, obviously, I think your story is incredible, which is why I asked you to be on this podcast. And then this has sort of come full circle. So, Zoo Labs is where your accelerator was, but now you have taken over. and secured funding to buy the property where Zoo Labs used to be housed out of. And then now you are going to be running this nonprofit that gives back to the community the same that you got from Zoo Labs. So tell us, if people are artists or, want to get involved, like, how do they do that and what should they be looking out for?
Yeah. So yes, as you just described, so the success of ElectroSpit, we were able to raise the money to manufacture. We won first place at the Guthman Awards, which is the top award for musical instruments. Our sales, uh, you know, our sales dropped off right after winning the award because the pandemic started.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But through the pandemic, we used some of that same creativity. When the manufacturing and the warehouse was closed, I was taking parts around from employee to employee. They were building it
Mm-hmm.
at home, and we had this whole map of the Bay Area where the product would go to this person's house, then to this
Uh-huh.
person's house, and then they take it to the next to get it
Right.
built. And we figured out how to build a product, how to deliver it to all of our Kickstarter backers. And then we started in the fall of 2020. We started doing some advertising. David Guetta uh, started using. He created a video that we didn't even know about just because of during the pandemic. I know we're probably over time, but I would tell this quick story. During the pandemic, uh, David Guetta hit me on FaceTime, and I had an Android phone, and I just happened to have an old iPhone that was still connected to FaceTime. So I look at it. This is like March or something, and it's like David Guetta. I'm like, I had never talked to him on the phone on FaceTime before. It's like, why is David Guetta hitting me? And so I said, well, I better answer. So he says, hey, Bosko, can you teach me how to play talkbox? I'm on lockdown in Miami. I can't go anywhere. I want to learn. Like, heck yeah. so, so he buys a whole package, like a couple of ElectroSpit talk boxes, a couple of keyboards. I ship it to him overnight. We're going online on FaceTime, and I'm showing him how to set everything up and how to play for like 2 weeks. We're just like going hard, and then I got him to the point where he felt comfortable, and he did a performance at at this huge fundraiser on the top of like the World Trade, not the World Trade Center, um, one of these famous buildings in New York, but one of the tallest buildings in New York. He did a concert there, and but then I didn't hear from him for like not 6 months, and then I get this call. Hey, a friend of mine said, "Man, that video you got with David Guetta is really cool." And I was like, "What video?" And he had done a demonstration of playing the talk box with the ElectroSpit talk box with this magazine called DJ Mag. He's got millions of followers. They have millions of followers. Our 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 website traffic like tripled for the next 3 months. Our sales tripled for 3 months. We took some of that video, along with some of the other influencer videos that we had, and put it into and made a commercial. Our sales went from and we started doing Facebook ads with that video, and um, our sales in the holidays went from October, we did like 16,000. November, we did 29,000. December, we did 50,000. So our sales just like shot up. And, it was all basically based on, relationships and influencers and advertising, just, creativity. So essentially, ElectroSpit is blowing up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, the owners of the building, because of the pandemic, and partially because of the pandemic, also because they are doing just had other interests and they're thinking about moving and building
Mhm.
properties, and they just had other things that they wanted to work on. They didn't want to be bothered with a physical location, and
Mhm.
the George Floyd protests are happening, and I'm thinking, how can I give back?
Mhm.
To the Black community. And,
Right.
I couldn't create a $1 billion fund. I wasn't ready to fund that
Right.
myself. But what I did have was the blueprint for ElectroSpit, and I had these
Mhm.
relationships and I had this experience. So, and I was already doing mentoring, mentoring
Mhm.
other artists, but I said, well, why don't I buy this building, which I didn't have the money for.
Mhm. Right.
And
But that's been no problem in the
no
past, so
problem. It's been a huge problem. But
well, I mean, you're creative. You always found a way to get it done.
find a way. So I said, I'm gonna they want to get rid of the building. I'm gonna I'm gonna buy the building and create a new incubator and share all this information and these resources with other artists, so that instead of one, music business, like ElectroSpit, let's make $50 million Black owned music related businesses, and a network of resources and mentors and financing, and I just had a vision for that, and I started working on it in the middle of the pandemic, and um, I decided that it needed to be a nonprofit because that was, there was more funding available, at least for startup, and that's the vision. The vision is impact, and so I there was a nonprofit organization called CAST, Community Arts Stabilization Trust, that was interested in getting behind it. I started making partnerships with Zoo Labs, partnerships with Runway Family, who had financed ElectroSpit, and building a deck. I Part of my journey with ElectroSpit was learning how to sell an idea, or to get support for an idea, by creating pitch decks and financial models. And I did the same thing with the Black Music Entrepreneurship Incubator, and people responded to the idea. And there was a grant for acquisition of property from the William Hewlett Foundation. We applied, and I mean, this was a year. It took a year to put all of this together. All the ideas and the pitch decks and the models, and um, but we won the grant in December, for 707,000, to buy the building. And not only, the building is more than 707,000. It's like a $3.5 million building, but that's a big chunk of the money. And then I found financing from Cast, and uh there's seller financing, and but also because of the success of ElectroSpit, because of the strength of our pitch deck, and now because an organization like Hewlett, who's done all of this due diligence, has shown the faith in this vision and organization, we will be able to raise the rest of the money. Uh,
Right.
and if you're listening, you can go to blackmusicincubator.org and donate if you want to support this vision, and support this acquisition of the property, and support our programs, which will are all about taking artists and helping them create businesses so that they can create art and not get pushed out of the
Yeah.
Bay Area because of the high cost of living. And so they can raise a family and they can continue to make music year after year.
Yeah.
So that's yeah,
I love it.
that's kind of how it came together. And
Yeah.
we have a launch event that's coming up. Um,
The
and
end of the month, right?
Yeah, yeah. January 30th. It's called The
Yeah.
Crowning. and
Perfect.
it's a double entendre.
Yep.
But it's
Yep.
the birth. It's the birth of this organization, and the
Hmm.
birth of this these resources that we're making available to artists, and collaborating with artists, because this, I think it's important. I think one of the reasons that Hewlett and Cast and the Watsons got behind my vision is they saw the way that I have made ElectroSpit a reality from a vision, um, and that investing in something that I'm building, it can grow and sustain itself, as opposed to, it's just not like, okay, we'll give him some money and then that's it. He's gone, or he'll have to get the same amount of money next year. No, we're gonna create something with this and find other resources and take it and grow it. And, and that's what this incubator is all about. And we're doing the same thing with artists. So I said that to say, I don't think of the artists that come through the incubator as like, okay, here's this charity, just quote unquote charity case, and we're just going to give them something, and then that's it. No, we're helping them create something, a business, and sharing our resources. They may go and create a business that's bigger than our business, that and help us, with resources and promotion, and we can create partnerships just the same way that I've done with ElectroSpit. I took this business that was just an idea. I had got support from all these organizations. Now I'm bringing resources to those organizations and
Hmm.
helping to further their goals in terms of impact. So
Right.
um,
Right. It truly is an ecosystem. We keep using that word, but it really, really is an ecosystem. Well, I just want to say thank you again for sharing the story. But there's, if you have the opportunity to listen to this episode more than once, definitely do it, because there are so many just lessons and gems just from you telling your story, from being able to pivot, getting creative with financing, even just, the prototype. I feel like sometimes we think that it's got to be this $1 million idea in the very beginning. But like you said, you put the prototype together from Ace Hardware materials, right? And like and you will probably always keep that as a reminder of what it started as, and then there will be, upgrades in the future. So kudos to you for like taking all of your learning and all of your background and putting it into this moment, and for turning around and giving your knowledge and your skills and your expertise back to those artists who want to come behind you. I think we are lucky to have you in the community, and I'm lucky and grateful to have you on this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the podcast. Thank you for helping to spread the information, because that's I need we need to work together to bring this information and resources to our community. Um if people want to contact me, go to electrospit.com if you're interested in buying a talkbox, or you want to learn more about talkbox. We have an active campaign on Republic right now, where you can invest and own a piece of ElectroSpit. So that's republic.com/electrospit, ElectroSpit. And the company's on a great trajectory. I think I mentioned it earlier, but we're on this record called Levitating, which is the biggest song of 2021. David Guetta is one of our advisors. E40s is an advisor. Just Blaze is an advisor. So we have this incredible team of artists, as well as our own team that's pushing ElectroSpit forward. And and then if you want to get involved in the incubator, whether that's applying, mentoring, or just coming to our events to hear some of the amazing artists that are in the Bay Area, just go to blackmusicincubator.org and sign up. And
Got it. Thank
yeah,
you so much. And one last question. This is
yeah.
also the ElectroSpit Talk Box is also something that children can use, right? So if someone wanted to get it for their kids, is that
It's I
an
would
idea?
say right now, the current version, you have to be you have to be a certain size. So
Okay.
like close to adult size. Like women can use
Mm-hmm.
it. I would say you have to have a neck size that is above 12
Okay.
inches. Above 12 inches.
Something I have never ever thought to measure.
Yeah. The average, the average adult can use it, whether
Hmm.
male or female. Kids, if they're smaller than a small adult, then we're not there yet. But we're working on it. We will get there. So this is the
Yes.
prototype for the next version, and that's what we're building with the money from the campaign on Republic. Is the next version that will address some of those issues, that we can get to a wider audience, that's even easier to use, sounds even better, and it's less expensive. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, Bosko. Y'all don't forget to go reach out to Bosko, check out the websites, check out ElectroSpit, and certainly go look for it on social media so you can see all the artists using it in action. We'll see you
yes.
next week.